Okay, hey, what we're going to be doing today is using the Meshmixer software to create 3D printable models from our prints. So what we're doing is we're going to go in and find the Meshmixer software, which I've already got it selected right here. Jump into either Meshmixer or download, obviously, and we're going to get in and click on whichever one we need. You're going to go through the process of downloading this onto your computer. Once you have that downloaded, you'll have Meshmixer, which is available to start using. And this is what you're going to see right off the bat. And so now we're going to go through the process of how do we take a mesh and turn it into something that we can print. So we're going to import, and I have a case here that I'm labeling as example. And anytime I do an intraoral scan and I take them out, they're going to be STL files, as we can see right here. We have an upper and we have a lower, and I always label these as raw. They're raw because I haven't done anything to them yet, and I always want to maintain these so that I have the original data. Today we're going to be working on the upper and importing this into our mesh. And so as you can see, right away we have something here. And how I'm moving this around is I'm using the right-click button on my mouse to get to where I need to. And you can see that I have free motion of this. I can move it all the way around. I can see the inside, right? This is a model that is not closed yet, and so we're going to be working on getting rid of this all the way through. If, however, you're not able to freely move this around, I would say that's the first thing we want to work on. And so if you hit the space bar inside of the software, you can see that we have two options right up here, free and snap. If I click on snap, you'll see the difference. As I'm coming through, if I click on it again, it doesn't like me messing with it here. That should work. Nope. Free. There we go. I hit a wall. Right, and you can see I get to a point where I can't keep on going. It's stopped. And so you want to make sure that you're always in the free mode, right? Free mode allows you to move all the way around. And this software can do that, especially I'm using a Mac here. You saw how it was a little tricky for me to get what I wanted to do. Also, what you see is this kind of a grid, and how this model is actually really nicely set up on this grid. Well, I'm going to show you something here, and the reason that I keep the original raw files, I'm going to add another file, so I'm going to click append, and I'm going to find our lower and bring that into this mesh. And you're going to see that because I did this with an intraoral scanner, these are going to be perfectly aligned inside of here. And so again, right click, I'm able to pan around and do whatever I need to. Well, if I'm working on a single object, right now it's the lower. If I click on the upper, it's the upper, and I go in and I actually tilt these so that it's away from the grid. You have to make sure that you're doing it to both. And again, that's why I always maintain the raw file, so if I do something I can always go back and undo it. You also saw that we have an object browser down here that came in and actually when we added this lower model. So if I click on the lower again and I click on this light or the eyeball, you can see it changes it up, almost makes it see-through, right? And that's because I'm clicked on it. If I go back up here, I can only see the upper, and for the most part I'm going to leave this off down here because I'm not interested in showing you both. I'm just showing you how we're going to clean these up. Okay, so first things first, we're going to have to clean this model up. All of this extra little stuff that's sticking off here, we don't want that, right? Because when we do this, we're going to basically turn this into a model just like you would do in the lab, but it's going to be digital. So we don't want all this stuff hanging off because it's just extra. It's going to mess things up. So right off the bat, we're going to click the S button, or we can come over here to select. So I'll hit the S button. It does the select, and now you'll see I have kind of a blob there that's around what I'm doing, and if I click on that, right, you can see that this area is now selected because that's what I was doing. I don't want to do that, right? So I'm going to go ahead and escape back out of there, and I'm going to click select again, and you can see the blob again. And there's another way that I can select certain things. I can not only click, but I can go outside and I can create lines. Anytime I create a line, I continuously scroll, and then I come back and I try to connect it over here. Okay, and you can see I end up with what I want to end up with. And if I hit the X button on a Mac, it deletes it. So now it's gone. right? Again, if I go Command Z and I bring back what I was just doing here, let me show you what happens if I still on select and I make a line, but I don't connect it, right? I'm gonna come over here and I kind of do this. I get what I want here, but over here you see how more stuff is selected, right? I don't really want that to happen because it can start really messing with your model, getting things messed up all the way across. So again, we're going to escape. I'm going to start by cleaning up. It's easier just to do a line over here. So again, select. I'm going to come in, I'm going to select what I want to select all the way back around, and I'm going to kind of bring it back this direction, and it catches everything that I want to. Hit the X button, that's going to be gone. And so all the way around you can do that either by clicking, right, and I can come over and I can click all this type of stuff to get rid of it. And if I go too far and I start getting up over in here, what I could do is hold the shift button. I'm now holding shift and I'm deselecting these areas that I wanted to keep, right? A couple little tricks here. I'm just kind of showing you how to use the software. And I'm painting back, still holding the shift button. All of that's done, and X, and it's gone. Okay, all right. What else we can do is if we have, this is kind of a good spot to see here, and you hold the scroll wheel, right? The scroll wheel is for zooming in, but also for moving your model back and forth like this. And if I keep going in here, you can see there's a little piece right here floating in midair. It's not connected to anything, right? And so I can come over here and I can go to select all, right? Or I can go to Command all, and it selects all of this type of stuff right through here. I can also undo that, click my select, and 1, 2, 3, and it selects the entire model, right? Everything that's connected to this model is now selected. Well, I want the stuff that's not a part of this model, right? Kind of like this piece that's floating right there. And so by hitting the I button, you can see that little piece is floating right there. And any other pieces on this model that may not be attached are now selected. By doing that, I click X, and I know all these little floating pieces are now gone, right? Again, these are all things that can cause issues. And so, will you always have these? No, right? But these are things that you want to be aware of if things are not working, right? I don't really like this little guy hanging off here. All right, so I'm going to come in, I'm going to take my floating, right, you can see my image here, and if I want that smaller, I can actually go over here to size, make it smaller, and you can see there on the screen how it's going in and out, making it a little bit bigger and smaller. Or I can also use brackets on my computer. If I use the brackets, right, one makes it smaller, you can see it moving there all the way down, and one makes it bigger, right? And I'm just going to come up here, I'm just going to kind of paint on this entire image, get some of the stuff around here, and X. And so let's go ahead and just continue all the way through. And for the most part, I prefer the line, right? And so I'm going to use a line, I'm going to click, I'm going to come all the way in here, just clean all this stuff up at once, come back so that I can kind of tell the software what I'm actually doing, and click X. We're going to come in, take off some of this extra data here, and just continue all the way around, right? Again, we have a bleb right here that's kind of hanging off. I don't really like it, and this is a upper model, right? I don't have the entire palette, so that may or may not be a problem, but hey, we have to deal with what we have from the original image. Maybe if this was a problem, you'd have to go back and actually scan more to actually get more of the palette, right? But again, I'm not interested in that here. I'm just trying to print something, so I'm going to come in, I'm going to grab all of this, come back and try to close that off, and you see what happened, right? It went over here. Well, I don't want to do that, and so we're just going to back out, select, and be a little easier here on my selection. Right there, X. Now I've got this I don't like, X. I'll come back all the way over and through here, and it's probably going to give me a funky kind of a thing again there, X. No problem, so we'll keep going. But I did notice I've got a little hanging thing over here. right? And again, just get rid of stuff as you go. And you can be as meticulous on this as you want. The whole purpose of this is to make the model easier to deal with. You see how I kind of have this underhang here, right? Again, just little things that I know are going to be a problem as I'm printing, so I'm getting rid of them as I can. Once I have something that I'm pretty happy with all the way through, what I want to do is make sure that I have nothing floating again, right? So if you remember earlier, I'm going to 1, 2, 3, click on here, get this whole thing. I'm going to hit the I, invert to see if there's anything floating. You may not even be able to see it. It's so small. Okay, and then I'm going to hit X. That way anything that was floating that's not attached to this is now gone. Okay, I also want to make sure that I don't have any little tiny holes on this. As I'm going through, I can create little tiny micro holes all the way through here. And what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to take my thing, I'm going to hit the bracket to make it smaller, and I'm going to create a hole right here. I'm going to hit X, and now you see that I have a hole. And so what do I do about that? Right? Well, you can fill that in if you need to, and sometimes as you're deleting things, you can actually create these holes. But the best thing to do is escape out all this. If you hit the I, we end up with what's known as the inspector. Okay, and so I does inverting if I'm selecting something, and if I don't have the select already on and I hit I end up with an inspector here, and the inspector basically is telling me, hey, where do I have a hole? Because remember, the point of all of this is to create a model that is solid. Okay, and so I zoom all the way out, and you can see, oh, I've got a hole here that I created, but what are these over here? I didn't even see what those are. And so as I zoom in, you can clearly see that this button goes to a hole, right? How did that end up there? I don't know, but that's why we do this. So we click on the button, and it repairs the hole. The hole's gone. Now you see this one, where this one's going to. It's going to the outline of this entire image, because if we zoom back out and we look on the inside, right, this is one big hole. If I click that, it'll close everything. I don't want to do that right now. And so I'll go back to this other one over here that I know that I created. I click that. Hole's gone. We're good. I'm going to go ahead and close the inspector. So now I pretty much have a model that I'm going to be relatively happy with moving forward. And there's a lot more things that you can do on this. You know, if you wanted to go in, like we have this little image, this little bleb here on the canine. You know, if we wanted to smooth that off, if we thought that was an artifact that happened or a bubble, right, we can go in and try to smooth these things off, but we're not messing with that here today. So now what I want to do is I want to clean up these borders, right? As I zoom in here, you can see how just rough and nasty and all these borders are. When I pour this model, I don't want that roughness, okay? So I'm going to go all the way in. I'm going to change my little circle that I have around here to very small, right? I'm going to try to click right on that border. And now you see the entire image is selected all the way around that border. I'm going to go up here to modify, and I'm going to click on expand the ring. Now watch the orange when I click this. The orange gets a little bit bigger. I'm going to do that one more time just so that I have a big enough area that I'm getting all the way around here. And I'm going to optimize the border. Again, watch kind of the blue and the orange as I click on that, right? Things change a little bit. And optimizing is, again, just kind of creating a smoother border. And to finalize that, we're going to go to smooth border all the way through, and now watch what happens, right? All the way through we have a much nicer image. So I'm going to hit escape now. Oops, see what I did there? I didn't end up with my smooth border because I didn't save what I was doing. So I clicked the smooth border, and if I clicked select or accept, now you see the difference. So again, I'm always going to have things pop up over here, and if I click out, it's not going to do what I want it to do sometimes. And so now that I have it done, I can go all the way through, and you see that I have a much nicer just kind of area. And right there, see what I just saw right there? We're going to zoom in, scroll, pan where we want. All right, we have this little kind of a lip. That may or may not be a problem in the future, right? But I don't want to deal with that. So select. Little line we're going to take here just to kind of clean that up. X to delete that. And now we can start to make our differences. If you don't like that we have this different color here now, this purple all the way around, that's called a face group. Anytime you change something, it goes from the gray to something else. That can be beneficial. For the most part, I'm not too worried about that. That can be there or not. And so if I wanted it to be gone, I can go to Command All. Right, that selects everything again on this entire screen. I can go to Modify and Clear Face Groups. If I click the Clear Face Groups, you can see now it's gone. Okay, so let's go ahead and zoom all the way out. We're going to get to where we want to be, where we can see everything again. This is just a good way to be. And so everything's pretty much cleaned up, right? We have everything all the way around. It's looking good, no real issues here. And now, because I don't have the entire palette, right, the question is, do I really need that to pour this up? Maybe I'm doing a suck down that I can create an occlusal guard or an Invisalign liner type of thing. And so if I don't need the entire palette, right, that's going to be another issue, that I'm just wasting resin when I do that. So now that I'm thinking about that, I'm going to come in, I'm going to hit select, I'm going to create my line, I'm going to come in here and just get rid of most of this palette. Right, all the way through, X to get rid of it. I want to do a little bit more just to kind of smooth it all off. And again, ideally, I would go back through and do the optimized borders, right? Because you can see just how nasty all of this is. And you know what? I'm actually going to do that. Double click. Oh, I didn't catch it there, right? So now I'm creating a line, so I'll get out of there. I'll go back to my select. And there we go. Looks like I've caught the border right there. Maybe. Nope. It's wanting to mess with me. So we'll escape and try to figure out why things are going a little wacky here. There we go. I have to be more on the image than outside of it. So again, I have the entire image, the external outline selected, and if you remember, we're going to go back to Modify, Expand Ring. I'm going to do it again, expand the ring, just to make it a little bit smoother. We're going to go down to Optimize Border. It makes a couple changes, and then I'm going to go to Smooth the Boundary. Now, if you remember last time, we didn't click Accept, and now you can play with all of this stuff, how smooth you want it, how much you want to mess with it. I'm pretty happy with where it is, and we end up with a very nice smooth border. We click out of there, and again we have this face group. I'm not a fan of those, so Command All, select everything. Let's go to Modify, Clear Face Group, and now we're back to everything. And if you see that I can use my right button, my right click button to get where I need to, or I can use these kind of universal movements. All right, now let's go ahead and pour a base for this model.